Hey everyone, it's Christopher Swan, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Your Journey. Each week, I get the amazing opportunity to chat with people that love what they do in life. They understand their passions. Maybe it's a career path or the social impact that they're making. It's kind of like they're following their North Star. Even though their story may change, they understand that they're on a journey every day. It's another week with a terrific guest, and this time I chat with Rene Siegel. She's the CEO and founder of ConNEXT, a marketing and communication consulting agency in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's also known for her articles published on Inc.com. She's a wife and a mother of 3. Rene and I talk about why she does the things she does, like why start the agency versus staying in a corporate job, why it's important for her to help young people in college and early in their careers, and how she's aiming to create a positive impact in a much bigger way. You'll definitely hear Rene's enthusiasm for everything she shares. She's also so down to earth, real, and very passionate about helping people and making her mark on the world. And after our chat, there may even be a couple outtakes for you to hear. Okay, here's our conversation. You know, I think as I started to think about your story, and as much as I know about it, that I could stalk you online, and as much as I've, know you in person, I started to, we're going to dive into the background and ConNEXT and pieces of that. But the thing I started to walk away with is, why do you do what you do? Kind of what's your why? The Simon Sinek question.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I think about that, like, Rene, you founded this marketing and communications consulting agency, and you've had this past of the communications world. But yeah, why do you do what you do?
Wow, that's a great first question. I think that the passion that I have for empowering other people, which is what I've been able to kind of distill it down to over years. I am fanatically passionate about especially young people, college-age people, young women. And I think it comes from my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. So when I reflected back to high school and college, I was the first in my family to be accepted to and to eventually attend a 4-year university. My parents both had AA degrees. And my parents were going through a divorce around the time I was a senior, which means they weren't able to help me navigate what the next step would be in my life. Going to college was something that I knew I should do, mm-hmm. but it wasn't something that was talked about a lot at home, and it wasn't something that my parents could really help with. They were, really kind of embroiled in their own life and challenges. So I had to kind of figure things out on my own. And I think that is the age where I am most passionate. Those people who are, especially young women, who are trying to figure things out, mm-hmm. may or may not have the support from families, mentors. There wasn't anyone who really was a mentor. It was really messy. I was a chemical engineering major. Why? because when I'm having to check boxes on a college application, people said, "Oh, you're a woman, you're a minority, you're good with math and science, you should be an engineer. Rene, you'll never have to worry about a job, you'll always have work." I said, "Sure, okay." Of course, 1-2 classes into engineering, and chemistry classes, and I realized, oh my God, what have I done? Yeah. And it was a circuitous kind of route. But my passion comes from the fact that I didn't have anyone who really was guiding or providing context and showing me what was possible. I had to do it on my own. And so I think for me now, whether it's someone coming out of college or someone who's finished college and entering their career, that's where my passion comes from. I would love for them to not only know themselves, but figure out how to use their gifts and talents and make their life something even greater than they imagined.
Oh my gosh, I love all that. That's actually wonderful. Everything you just said, I resonated with moments of that. I'm like, yeah, I remember, like, even this checkbox part that you talked mm-hmm. about, I actually think is really common. It's this, this, you should be this.
Right.
And the people that might say that, I think, have wonderful intention. But that's also based on what they know and understand. So if they don't understand the different opportunities that might help you connect beyond the obvious you're good at math, then they're not able to offer anything. So, like that's what wonderful career counselors are for, when they really understand that world. So I love that you look at that and embrace it. And you also said your personal experiences has helped shape that. That makes sense, of course, because I think that's what we pull from.
Absolutely.
So when I think about then all that, everything you just said about helping to shape kind of, especially the young women, people in this kind of group, about this mentoring aspect of it, I'm going to move us back a little bit. We're going back to High Tech Connect. So you founded this organization, this agency, and I think it was in 97, if I remember correctly. Okay. So it's been a long time that you've had this organization around. So, and I'll let you describe the organization better than I will, but obviously you have clients that hire consultants through your organization to help them be great and do what they need to do in the marketing communications world. How does that connect now back to your why, back to this helping people kind of finding their world, their connection, helping, connect them to the right dot?
Well, it may sound a little bit trite, but I've actually, with the help of some brilliant branding friends, I've been able to narrow this down to 4 words, and it's best work, best life. And if I think back to, when I was trying to find my path and figure out what really resonated, what kind of work I wanted to do and enjoy it. I knew engineering wasn't the answer, and it took a lot of interesting, kind of twists and turns to put me on the path of being in the marketing and communications world, first as a corporate employee, but then later as an entrepreneur, right, starting my agency.
Sure.
But that's also why I rush to work every day, is because that best work, best life. My team and I are incredibly passionate. What we do is not keyword searches. This is not a matchmaking service where we just are simply looking for people with a certain kind of skill set for our clients. What is beautiful, what I love about my job, is that I have amazing relationships with my clients where I get to understand them, not just from their job title, but the forces at work in their organization, the types of personalities that they're dealing with. Because I've got that corporate background, I can put myself in their shoes and really feel, where's the pain coming from? What do they need most? How can we help? And then the beauty is when I'm able to go through our network of 1,700 amazing handpicked consultants and narrow down to the 1, 2, or 3 that best meet that client's needs. And it is always more than just the keywords, the skill sets, the experience. It's not just, hey, send me a writer.
Sure.
The beauty, the fun of what I get to do is when the client says, oh my God, Rene, I can't decide. You've sent me 2 of the most amazing people, and now I love them both. I don't know what to do. That's music to our ears. And so for me, that's best work, best life, because the client can get back to doing what they were hired to do, right?
Absolutely.
And they can offload the things they don't want to a consultant. And now we've got a consultant who is trying to have, the flexibility in their life that they didn't before, or to take care of elders and children, or to have a healthier lifestyle, or for whatever reason, they are also able to select the kind of work that they want to do best and have the life and flexibility. So for us, if in an ideal world, it's a 3-way win every time.
I love that. And I love that you brought it back also to the consultant, because I was going to ask you about, let's talk more about best work, best life. I think that does sum up so much stuff for, the different parties involved. And it sounds like, like you said, it's more than matchmaking. It is that, but it's like this. It's the right matches, and when everybody is having that best work, best life, then everybody is happy and they're really gelling together. So I could see how when you were younger, thinking about that, gosh, what was my experience like, and if I had somebody that was doing that. So So thinking about this in real life every day, the day to day, and when you do have, well, actually, let me back up a little bit more. Let's actually talk about High Tech Connect. Let's actually get into the weeds a little bit more about that. Let's talk about like where we started in 1997. So obviously you had this corporate past world, which I do love also that you said that you use that, right? Because I think it's really true. If you really lived that experience, you can help understand what the clients need and what the consultant what their life will be like in this. But back us up into, why did you start it in 97? What was the turning point for you?
Well, first I have to say I never, ever viewed myself as an entrepreneur. I thought I'd work for someone else and have a job and come home and that would be my life. I'm basically a chicken at heart. And every day that I go to work and I lead this team, I'm still a little bit terrified inside, to be honest. And I'm learning. I'm continuing to learn. I know I don't have all the answers.
That's what makes you a great leader, though, I think. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but that's really true. If you realize that you don't have the answers and you're also a little scared half the time, if you have that little butterflies in your stomach, it actually means you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
I mean, that's at least what I believe in.
Okay.
And so, because it keeps you from getting settled.
Well, back to 1997, I was, crazy working, jumping on red-eye flights, being in charge of marketing and communications launches. I had one child and came back to work full-time for a large software company. And then I was pregnant with my second. And I had put my life on hold for weeks on end. I wasn't eating, sleeping, drinking. I was physically exhausted, huge pregnant. And I vividly recall the moment when I had filled an auditorium with executives getting ready for a launch, a big unveiling kind of at 8 a.m. the next morning. We were doing a rehearsal at 2 a.m. with top executives on stage. I'm controlling the audio, video, the visuals. I'm completely ready. And a couple executives went off on the corner of the stage, had a disagreement, and the entire deal fell through. The partners. And really, we're talking about the largest, the Fortune 5 kinds of clients. And, it occurred to me that, my health had suffered, perhaps the health of my unborn child, but I did everything right. Everything I was in charge of, everything I was responsible for was ready to go. And here was something that I had no control over. And that really not just frustrated, it infuriated me, that lack of control. The fact that in high tech, if you're in charge of the launch or the trade show booth, that booth has to be up no matter what. And yet software engineers could promise a launch date, get 2 weeks before and say, we're not going to hit that date. That made me kind of crazy. And I realized after doing, 10 years of this and having my second child that I couldn't keep putting my health, my sanity, my family, on the back burner for this job.
Yeah.
That was no longer providing everything that I had hoped it would, right? So I went to the company and I said, can I work part-time? Guess what? I've got someone I can job share with. Can we do that? And of course, at that time, they had no clue what to do. So I quit. My other colleague who was going to job share with me quit. And I started consulting for myself. And that's where I learned how to be a great consultant to meet client needs. And when I had so much business that I started farming it out for free and passing it off to friends, I, over the course of a year or two, had people saying, Rene, there is a need here. We can't go to a recruiter. We can't go to a Temps R Us staffing agency. They don't know the difference between AR, PR, and IR. They, you understand what we're looking for, and oh my gosh, why don't you make this a business? So of course I freaked out, said, I don't have time to pee. I have 2 small children. You've got to be, kidding.
Yeah.
But over time, with enough nudging from friends, I decided I'll give this a shot, and didn't think it would last 6 months. And here we are almost 20 years later.
I know, that's crazy. That's wonderful. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've, some of my past as well, so I've kind of been in those spaces, and I absolutely understand that. I think no matter what industry somebody is working in, we probably all have had those moments where it's that lack of control that you mentioned, that we want some of that control back to do the things that we'd love to do, or just to be able to live our life. So it makes a lot of sense to be there. So Rene, you've been in the industry for such a long time, and you were really the consultant in PR and marketing and doing that day to day. But, over the years of running this organization for almost 20 years, you're the CEO and founder, which is a completely different role than actually consulting with an organization for the comms needs. How's that changed for you, or what has that done for you in your career?
Well, it's obviously pushed me far outside my comfort zone because I wasn't expecting to still be leading a company 20 years later. So yes, I do miss the one-on-one interaction of being able to provide a solution for a client, for someone that I enjoy working with and doing the marketing and communications that I had trained for so long to do. But I have been able to build just an amazing network of now clients and consultants that flip-flop between those two roles. And I've been able to work with a team that I can't wait to see every day. And then I guess on another level, the being an entrepreneur and kind of putting myself in a different role has allowed me to, I guess, create more impact with the people that I want to empower. So if we get back to, best work, best life, I wanted that for myself originally. And then when I started High Tech Connect, I created a company with employees that I wanted to be able to have that. And now we're able to do that for clients and consultants.
So if you have a bigger impact, and it's not just High Tech Connect, it's not just the employees working for you, where else does your impact influence?
Well, as insecure as I am, to be honest, I realized that there was valuable experience that I was gaining as an entrepreneur. I was making mistakes. I was learning from them. And so really over the past just couple of years, I've been excited to kind of share the journey with more people, writing articles, giving speeches, and most recently teaching an upper division PR class at San Jose State. These are the students that are literally one step from the real world. So I loved being able to talk to them about what was happening with my clients, a situation as trivial as it was with my team, and be able to give them a glimpse of what the real world is like. And that has been really, really satisfying. I'm excited because I'll be teaching again this fall.
I think that's terrific. And I love that you said what like the real world is like. We're in so many circumstances, school, whatever the case is, and we have this idea of what it's going to be like. I've been working with an intern lately, and it's funny to see like the world back through the lens of a 21-year-old or so. And, what it's really like at an organization. And I could just see like this bright-eyed, wide guy who'd never seen anything like this. And, and I feel very similar to you. Like if I can help them see a little bit more. So I've spent more time with this, this gentleman just saying, oh, and let me give you the context of why this happens.
Right.
And it is so fulfilling. He just gave a presentation yesterday about all the work he's done over the summer. And the truth is he spent most of his time working with me. So most of that's been stuff we've done together. So I had to tell you, I was like, I feel so proud like that he went and did this. I'm like Papa Bear or something. I'm like, look at you go. But, and I think that's why it excited me was because it was like real world. And if there was a little influence. So I shared a little bit of that perspective from me because I think many of us that have worked in a career for a while probably experience kind of what you're doing, maybe not at that degree of teaching, but I think it's so fulfilling for the individual who's doing it, even maybe more than the person who's receiving it.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, we actually took it up a notch because I was having so much fun talking with college students or soon-to-be grads or recent grads. We created a program within my company that is all pro bono, We call it ConNEXT. So from High Tech Connect, we are now trying to empower the next generation of marketing and communications professionals. We realized how many of these students weren't getting basic career advice in the schools. So we are actually working with Stanford and San Jose State because we're here, outside in the Silicon Valley area. But we are doing free resume review and LinkedIn profile reviews and giving them interview tips and coaching them up so that they can hopefully go out and be more successful in their job search. Now, why do we do that? Well, I know darn well that 2 or 3 years from now, if that person is phenomenally successful working in the communications industry in Silicon Valley, they may have fond memories of High Tech Connect. Right? And it just goes around and comes around. It's the karmic world that I just believe in. So it doesn't cost us a lot. I've hired several brilliant millennials who are passionate about helping the peers that they were just students like you described, right? Who had no clue about what's expected for the real world. Now they get to help lift their peers. And so it's just, to me, that is something that is icing on top of the cake. It's not directly revenue generating, and in many cases will give resumes of possible interns to our clients, so that the clients don't have to just call the schools that have no time to help them, and we will send them 1 or 2 of the best. So that cracks open the door for our clients to understand this is the mission and the passion of a company that I think is very different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up this program because I was going to mention it. That was actually right on my mind because I know that you've been doing this, and I think it's kind of amazing. It's doing it at a really different level. I would, like you said, it's not revenue driven, exactly. However, I would also imagine too, it's relationship building, not just with that individual, but also like you said, if you're offering these resumes to your clients, it's also a relationship built with them. Hey, we can get you in the ground floor. We can do these different things. And do you ever, even as you work with clients, help? Here's where I'm going to go with this. You're bringing wonderful education and information to the individuals, to the possible consultants, to the students. What about some of your clients, the bigger organizations? Is there any sort of partnership that's beyond even just matching the consultant with them?
Well, that does happen on kind of a case-by-case, person-by-person situation. First of all, our corporate clients are so insanely busy that it's very, very hard for them to even just stay on top of the workload that needs to happen. So typically, we don't have the opportunity to kind of come in and educate them on these incredible millennials, or even discuss at length the things that we're seeing and hearing in the industry, trends as they're happening, right? However, they're frustrated at times because they are trying to learn and stay on the cutting edge of their roles, and typically are being told to go to human resources in their company, and that HR will help them find a millennial or whatever. And we're not seeing a lot of success there. There are a lot of really frustrated clients who have tried that route a few times and aren't necessarily getting the caliber of what they're looking for. Again, because HR has such a broad range of skill sets that they need to fulfill. Yeah. And we have a sweet spot. Our sweet spot is marketing and communications, specifically for high tech. It's PR, it's events, it's social media. We try to stay in our lane. And so because of that, we have, I think, a deeper, understanding and really can, from recent grads and college students all the way to seasoned veterans, we're able to, advise our clients and provide a picture that helps them much more accurately. It's much more actionable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you just said that. That's one of my favorite words. Yeah, it's almost like I paid you. Like if you could put intentional or intention somewhere, you'll really hit more of my words. So it's something I just thought about too, where maybe some of this education that you're, like you said, obviously these clients are very busy, but you guys are writing. You guys are you do this thing on. I know you put it on Facebook, and it may be in other channels, maybe Snapchat and such as well. But like TipTuesdays, clearly those I think those are for the students or the more junior career, or even anybody looking for the next opportunity. But I think some of those pieces even flow into the clients. The things I started to think about was, you can affect bigger change by putting just this great content out there, and they can absorb it that way. So
Absolutely.
I even thought, like, you guys are hitting it in different ways.
Thank you. Well, we've actually, I give a lot of credit to the amazing young millennials that I referenced before. Carly specifically was a biology major out of USC and did not want to work in a lab. She's incredibly amazing communicator. She is driven, and she has a very clear sense of what her peers are looking for. So not only has she just completely taken this TipTuesday and run with it and gained amazing traction in a short amount of time, but she's also spoke. I think it was her first month on the job. She spoke at Stanford.
Wow!
A month into her career. So, and she's loved every minute of it. So yes, we are realizing that a lot of these tips are not just for students, that they really resonate with even more seasoned, established, corporate marketers. They're fully entrenched in their job every day. They don't have a chance to look up and learn Snapchat, for example, which, like Twitter and some of these other tools, we may not fully understand as marketers how or why we need to learn them. But if we have someone who's giving us a quick coaching session, we don't want to end up lagging. We don't want to be a laggard. We don't want to be a dinosaur. So that's why I bring these people into my company. The fact that we can then share and spread some of that information to others is just part of that best work, best life again.
I think you guys are doing a good job at it too. I remember, we chatted about this over email, about you just recently went on a holiday. And you did a TipTuesday from, I think it was the New York airport.
From JFK.
Yeah, because I watched it and I was like, look at you go. Because I hadn't seen you do something like that. And not that it's, you couldn't do it, I just hadn't seen it. But that's an example of, and this was before I was really, looking up stuff or researching for our call. I was just interested. And I think that's the proof that the proof in the pudding, if you will, of you guys are putting out stuff that is affecting or influencing others. So it really does work. Because I was like, well, tell me more, and I was actually really kind of enthralled by that. And I watched most of the Tip Tuesdays, and I like it when you switch it around. If somebody new or different. So I think you guys are having an impact there. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Well, we need to do more. For some of us who aren't millennials and are a little more camera shy,
sure,
it's challenging. And I recognize that. I recognize that in my clients and my consultants as well. So I appreciate your feedback, and I promise I'll do more.
It just takes practice, sure, I don't do Snapchat very much, but sometimes, as we started talking through all of this, I started thinking about all these great, moments or these milestones, these elements of, now you have ConNEXT and you have these different pieces. When you first started High Tech Connect and you were going in a different path in this journey, what was success for you? What did you have in mind for success? Or what did it look like?
To be really honest, I couldn't envision it. I think I started by thinking, wow, it wasn't a major capital investment to start the company. It was a database of friends and colleagues. It was a computer. It was a fax machine at the time, and it was some phones. That's what I needed to get the business started. I do have to say that I was so chicken that I started the business with a business partner based in New Jersey. And years later, that turned out to be something that I regretted. We had very different values, and that ended up being one of the major hurdles, probably one of the biggest road bumps over the course of owning my business, where we had a major partnership dispute. It ended up with lawsuits, craziness for about 18 months, and eventually I purchased her interest in the business. But the point being, I couldn't have foreseen that. I didn't know we'd still be in business that many years later. And I certainly didn't anticipate that kind of stress.
And I think actually what's really honest about that, even the initial piece of it, was it wasn't this, big investment. It was just, I'm going to do this thing. Like it just probably seemed like the right thing, like the nudge of your friends you mentioned earlier. As you got involved and really started to, have some success with the clients or the process of it day to day, after maybe after just the big speed bump with the lawsuits and those pieces, did you at some point finally pause and say, wait, this is a real thing and I need to figure out where we're going next?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think ending up with the entire weight of the company on my shoulders was sobering. And truly, I recall being on a train after a 20-hour mediation session in Delaware. I remember speaking with both my attorney and my financial planner, as well as a tax accountant. And they all said, Rene, we are here for you. And so I think one of the biggest lessons is, it does take a village. I didn't do so. I think I got a C- in accounting in college, right? That is not, that is not my strength. But I have an amazing accountant. I have an amazing a brilliant tax man. I rely on people who are phenomenal at what they do, and I surround myself with trusted advisors. And I think when you're starting a business, you don't necessarily think you're going to be large enough to have to rely on other people. I see a lot of people who try to do it all themselves. And really, think about what my company does, right? We provide subject matter experts for people who don't have enough time to do it themselves. So here I had to kind of walk my own talk and realize over time that it's okay to get help. It's okay to surround yourself with people, to delegate and to trust. And I think when you're starting, that's not something that you're necessarily, that's not a clear vision right in front of you. Absolutely.
No, I think you're right. It's, if you can do it, do what you can do really well, and then let the others, the subject matter experts, help you. And you're probably right that I think it's probably a lesson people have to learn. They don't always start that way. Maybe it's investment, or maybe they don't need it. Like you said, they're small enough, I don't think they need it. Now that you've moved, that it's almost been 20 years, I'd love to know about, you've gone through these hurdles, you have these experts that help you, and you can focus more on what you want to do with ConNEXT, and also just your life. What does success look for you now that you're almost 20 years in? And is it around the organization? Is it around stuff you want to do in life? What does success look for you now?
Wow, that's a really deep question, Christopher.
Well, we don't have to solve everything, but I'm just curious how things have evolved for you, because I think that when you're first starting a company, you get to a point where your success is really about paying your bills or hiring more or creating a new brand or something. After a while, you've accomplished that and you want to do more. But, you get seasoned. I know that you have 3 children, and I believe that like early adult to teenager years.
Right. College, college and graduated.
Because I think you have, I think you have a son in New York. And so just thinking about those things, you've clearly done quite a bit. You've started this wonderful organization. You've done all these pieces that are successful. So that's, it's a little bit of what's next for success for you.
Well, you're right. I started the company because of my children, so that I could not outsource their entire life to someone else. And now that I have 2 in college, one who's graduated from college, who is working in New York, it does bring me pause, right? I am an empty nester now, and I'm not ready to sit and do Sudoku all day. I'm actually really, really excited about what's happening right now. I'm having fun engaging with people on social media at 11 o'clock at night who are CMOs of companies and ask what I think about things. I love that I'm going to teach my class again at San Jose State. I don't really have a clear picture of exactly what the business is going to look like, but I know that it's going to absolutely rely on the millennial workforce that is going to dominate, right, the national workforce within just a few years. So that's fabulous because I love hanging out with young people. I've got a few of my own, right? My own kids
Yeah.
and their friends. So how can we, as a company, take care of our clients, help more of these millennials, and just, it feels like a new chapter. It feels like an exciting new phase. Things don't stay the same. And like I said, I hate to be a dinosaur. So I want to figure out, how do we move with the market? And for what is happening, there are so many competitors of ours where, if you need a consultant, if you need a specialist, log in here and type in your requirements and you'll get a solution. Bink, it's like a vending machine, right?
Yeah.
And yet, Christopher, you and I know that there are so many more factors that are more important than those keywords.
Sure are.
Right? People lie. Have you ever
I don't know what you're talking about.
Light your pants on fire, right? So for me, it's okay, great. How do we harness all of this young, vibrant, amazing energy, these incredible communicators that were born with a phone in their hands, who were born sharing things online? How do we harness that and bring all of that value to our corporate clients? I'm excited, and yet at the same time, I don't have a clear vision laid out. I'm just taking one step at a time.
What do those steps look like for you? And what I mean by that is, I spoke to, in our past guest, Pat Waters. She's the chief HR officer for LinkedIn. She shared that each year she actually does which was new for me, I didn't realize this, that she does kind of an intentional report. She does this reflection on her life of like, what am I going to do this year? And what does that look like? And she tries to build that into what's next for her. And I absolutely understand this new chapter for you because I can, especially the milestone of children graduating or in college and what's next. Are there any sort of steps or activities or things that you do that help you look to the future or the things that really maybe is coming next?
I do work with several different career coaches on both personal and business-related goals, challenges. It could be things on a very tactical level, or it could be a little further down the road. I am being honest when I say the vision that I have right now isn't really clear.
Yeah.
I do know that it's going to include more of the teaching, the speaking, and the writing, of the sharing the journey. Now that I'm further down the road with this experience, I know that my business provides a viable service. And we like to think about it. There's Amazon Prime, which is awesome because you can order something from, China or wherever, and amazing. It shows up on your porch, right? But there are times when you have a very important event, a wedding or an interview, and you need to go to Nordstrom, and you need to work with their personal shopper, someone who's going to look at your unique body type and your needs and help you identify very quickly, right, a fabulous solution. That's how we feel. We understand there's always going to be a need for things out there. There will always be competitors and online options, but we want to be an even better kind of Nordstrom personal shopper for our clients, for our segment of the industry. And so what does that mean? That means we need to be where our clients are. So 5-10 years down the road, I'm not going anywhere. I'm really excited to remain a part of the leadership of High Tech Connect. We want to do more. But for me, I'm really focused in the short term on figuring out what direction is this moving? How do we morph and evolve our company to meet those needs? Because it is changing faster now than it has ever before in 20 years. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you use that analogy of the Nordstrom's, right? That personal shopper, somebody who really can understand you. And because I actually go back to even that piece that you mentioned about working with career coaches, even beyond the business, even for yourself, it sounds like you too take your own advice. And I don't, not that you said that we'd recommend this, but I would say it almost sounds like a recommendation too of like, if you need to look into those next steps, and it's perfectly fine not to know where you're going yet, There's always moments of that. That's discovery. That's part of that journey. But it sounds like maybe work with people that can help you see things in a different way than you can to help point you in the right direction or help you have the right discovery.
Absolutely.
You think that's true? Yeah.
Absolutely. Christopher, I have to point to, I remember very vividly one lunch meeting, two amazing women whom I admire so much and I'm inspired by. They invited me to lunch and they sat me down and they said, Rene, you're doing some really cool stuff. And it sounds like you're having fun. And you're really kind of fired up about working with young people and making a difference. And, you've got all this success with your business, but why don't you blow that up? Have you thought about, right, helping even more people? Like, can you try that on? Can you feel that instead of one at a time, which you do in your business? All of the things that I was too afraid to do at the time, the speaking, the writing, the teaching, came as a result of that lunch. Two women saw something. These dear friends saw something in me and said, Rene, this is bigger than you. And I just freaked out. I thought, oh my God, I can't, I won't, I don't know if I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
All that self-doubt and insecurity was there. And yet over time the message was received. Yes, Rene, you get joy from helping other people be successful in their careers. What if you could do more? What if you could reach more? And that's where I am. That's where I can look back and I'm incredibly grateful to those dear, honest friends who pushed me outside my comfort zone.
How do you, because you brought up a great point in that, how do you move past the fear? Like, because there are many moments for us that maybe the conversation that they had with you, your two friends, it resonated, I would imagine. Like, yeah, like, sure, there's this huge amount of fear, and maybe that's the initial piece, but it has to resonate with you to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to do it. So even when it resonates with you, how do you, because especially you started the business, you've done all these things, how do you move past fear to actually make action?
Well, to be honest, it took some time, right? I didn't walk away from that lunch and go, yeah, I can do this.
Tomorrow.
Woo! It took some time. I think when I realized that my team was doing such an amazing job that I wasn't needed for every tactic, every bit of minutia. I didn't have to touch every single client project myself, that I could trust them to do an amazing job. There was space. Space was created for me to look around and figure out where could I add value in different ways. And I have to say it was partly, again, because of some additional colleagues, mentors, coaches. I belong to an organization called Vistage, which is for CEOs. It's an international organization. And so I have a mentor there who I met with monthly, and her job was basically to scare the hell out of me. Ask those really hard questions that you wish someone wouldn't ask.
Yeah.
And that was, so I shared with her some of the things my friends said, and she nudged me along as well as some other people. So I think really it was, over the course of time, a number of people who saw something in me, and I finally decided to tiptoe out, to the edge of the diving board and try it.
So it sounds like trusted advisors is, probably the biggest influence for you to maybe get past some of that fear. I mean, obviously you have to have faith as well, right? Sometimes you just have to have a little bit of blind faith and do it, but it's trusted advisors sounds like an important step.
Absolutely. And again, if you think back to early, when I was in high school and trying to figure out, right, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
It wasn't because my parents intentionally weren't, they just didn't have that relevant experience. I didn't have any other friends or family members who had that relevant experience. So I think it's just taken time.
What would your advice be to somebody who says, yep, I feel exactly the same way and I really love a mentor or some trusted advisors, but maybe they're more junior in the career or they're just in some space where they can't seem or know where to find that. What advice would you offer for somebody who wants to find a advisor?
Oh my gosh. Well, you just touched on something which is going to be our next very cool program, which
Ooh.
is for all the consultants, the 1,700 consultants in our network. We have a lot of seasoned, amazing, experienced professionals that are eager to be mentors. And we have, of course, all of these bright, shining, recent college grads who are looking for mentors. And both of them can learn from each other. So another benefit of being part of High Tech Connect is we're going to be creating these mentor relationships for free and helping the more senior people kind of upskill, whether it's social media, and for the junior people to get that real world experience. I think there are mentors everywhere. You mentioned that you enjoy it, right?
Sure.
For anyone at any age who's looking for, who's paralyzed, right?
Yep.
Who's not sure what to do, who's uncertain. There's no shortage of people out there with wisdom and experience to share.
Do you think even using like LinkedIn or social media or something like that, if you don't belong to an organization like that, do you think that would be a good first step, is to maybe seek out groups based on your topic or industry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are all kinds of organizations. If you look to for us, the Public Relations Society of America, or IABC, the International Association of Business Communicators, right? For any industry, there are professional groups that meet and truly have this sense of camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
Really want to build communities. So that's where I send people. It's the first place that I recommend people go. And simply, you have to be authentic. You have to be vulnerable. You have to say, I need some help. I'd like advice. Would anybody be interested in being my mentor?
I think that's the golden ticket right there, that you have to be vulnerable and be authentic, because you won't get anywhere if, half of the people walking around on the planet are, probably trying to, it's like what we do on Facebook or social or anything. We always show the best of ourselves, that's great. However, let's be real. And you can't change and let people help you if you're only doing the best foot forward. So yeah, be vulnerable. Exactly. I love that.
Exactly. Brene Brown is an amazing author.
Oh, yeah.
Who's written about that vulnerability and how powerful it is. And I think for me, that's something that I was really petrified to show for the longest time. It's fake it till you make it, right, Christopher? You just gotta put on that game face and go out there and, rock it, except deep down inside, you may not have all the answers. And so for me, I've found the more I can be myself, the more honest I can be with my clients, the more they open up. It's an opportunity to connect at a completely different level. And I've found that it's only benefited the relationships and cemented kind of long-term, connections. It just feels, it's a friendship. It's not just a business relationship. It's truly a friendship if both sides are vulnerable.
And if you don't, this is just my personal opinion, if you don't feel that way about the relationship, then it's probably not the right relationship.
Right.
Because this is not the 80s. It is, and I just go back to that of like that kind of generic corporate world, which there was good stuff then too, but it's really different. Our day-to-day life and work have combined, really. The balance is something different. And so you have to be authentic. And to do that, you should do business with people that you love. That includes mentorships and relationships. So I think it makes a big difference. Anyways, that's just something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's funny that you talked about the fake it till you make it. I've heard two great pieces of advice on that. One was also fake your way into an emotion.
Ooh.
Like if you're not actually having a great day, pretend you are. And you actually, after a while, will start to feel better. I learned that from this wonderful, wise woman at the Walt Disney Company who, in very true, was very true to me, and I worked out. And then recently I heard something about I've been thinking about imposter syndrome. And it's the fake it till you make it thing, where you may not always know the answers. The truth is you probably won't know all the answers ever.
I agree.
And that's if you believe and understand that everybody feels that way and that a lot of people feel like an imposter, that, some of it will go away as you become more experienced, but also just know like we're all in the same boat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you are able to acknowledge that and admit that, oh my gosh, the opportunity to just, reach into that person's heart or have a conversation that is so honest that you're going to get more information than you normally would, right? When it's like, oh, it's almost a relief. When I meet with clients, I very quickly, as I hear about the chaos and the frustration they have, I can get a little salty. My language gets, I get what it's like to work in a crappy organization or to have, to not have enough resources. And it's amazing. Of course, I try to be very professional at the same time. But when I can feel what they're feeling, and communicate back in a way, you see that wall just drop right across the table.
You get me.
They're relieved. So, that's fun.
Absolutely. Well, Rene, I was thinking about, as we're going to wrap it up, I want to go back to this best work, best life, because I think you have had such a wonderful career in this, and you have really focused on this why and this purpose. For folks that are kind of starting out in their journey, what advice would you give them to kind of hone in on that best work, best life kind of approach or attitude in their journey? Like, where do they start?
Well, I've actually thought that most people have the answer embedded somewhere in their childhood. So it manifests itself in things like a great LinkedIn summary. So I don't want to be too cryptic here, but I'll give you myself as an example. Okay. My LinkedIn summary tells a very short story about how I was in the third grade. I was the geeky, like really, really shy only Asian minority kid sitting in the back of the class, but I was a really good speller. And there was a spelling bee for all the third graders. We lined up, we went through the words, and I had the word cupboard, which I was relieved because I knew it had a silent P. So I spelled it, but I said this, Cupboard. And I said it so quietly that the teacher across the room didn't hear me, said, ding, sit down, you're over. And I went, oh, because I knew I had spelled it correctly. So, of course, I slunk to my chair. I was mortified. I was confused because I knew I spelled it correctly, but she hadn't heard me. And, of course, the rest of the spelling bee words, I knew all of those. And the idiot who won had the word watermelon, and I distinctly remember to this day. But my point is that I learned at an early age why it was important to speak up, why it was important to clearly communicate when it really mattered. And while that's a very trivial little story, over the years, as I grew up, I learned to find my voice. It took a while, right? And I'm still trying to find it as we've talked about it. But that is my journey. That's my story. And I share a bit of that in my LinkedIn profile. So to answer your question, I often ask someone to think of a time from when they were little where they did something that they would do if nobody paid them, or an experience that was transformative, or when they were really scared, or something, just one of those standout memories. And I could almost always make a connection from that situation to their career aspirations. I had another young student who was a stocky young man, handsome, and he said, I remember I was on a soccer team that my dad coached, and he never put me in because I was the biggest and I was the slowest, and my dad was really competitive and he never put me in. But finally, the star forward got injured and he had to put me in. And I scored the game-winning goal. And I said, ooh, interesting. So you may not look like the obvious solution, but sounds like you're the man to have on a team and that you're all focused on getting the results done. And he went, oh,
I never thought of it that way.
Right? So when you're starting out in life and you're trying to figure out how to differentiate yourself, what is it that makes you special? Very few people ask they don't bother to ask, what is it that you love? Did you bake cookies when you were little? And does that have something to do with you building things or creating joy for people, right?
Yeah.
How can you connect those? That's where I get excited. And that's what I ask students. I ask people who, what is it that you truly, at your earliest memories, right, did or remembered, and how can you leverage that with what you're thinking about for your career today?
That's so smart. I love that. And actually, that really resonated with me. I did something very similar this last year.
Yeah? What?
I went back to my childhood. So Rene, that's absolutely, I can say that works. Even somebody who's in their 40s went back because to just reevaluate. It wasn't I was lost. I just wanted to reevaluate, reconnect. I love that.
Absolutely. And there's not one magic answer. So the pressure shouldn't be, what's that one story or that memory, right?
Yeah.
It really is just a resource, right? Where you can just kind of explore. I remember, I've got a photograph of, I think I was 5 years old. I asked for a typewriter for Christmas. Christopher, what 5-year-old asked for a typewriter?
I'm sure that was in the Sears catalog that you had circled.
It was. But truly, right? I looked back and I saw that photo and I was like, what the heck? I guess I liked writing.
Yeah.
And you just start to put these little dots. And then the experience, the pain and the frustration and the fear of when, college was looming and now what do I do with my life? And my parents couldn't help. That really stuck. So, you pull all these things together and now just following one foot in front of the other, being able to do this every day, being able to spread that to others, being able to hopefully help or inspire other people. Honestly, I can't believe that my business has been around for 20 years, that I'm blessed to work with the kind of people I work with every day, that there's so much joy. I realize how hard it's been. It has not been easy. There have been many, many bumps in the road, very scary times. But has it been worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only have those bumps in the road made me stronger and wiser, but I think going back to my children, the reason I started, I know that they admire my tenacity, my ability to navigate those really, really tough situations as well. And I hope that enhances their life and their confidence.
Yeah, what an example you're setting for them as well. That I love that you called it the tenacity, because I think anything worth getting is really, it does take tenacity to get there. It doesn't happen, and I love the honesty about it. It can be really hard, and there's a lot of bumps in the road. But especially if you're starting something, don't get lost in that. Don't get, you can get sad for a day or whatever, a week or two, but you gotta keep going. It's gonna be magic. Well, I've loved all this. This has been really fun, Rene. Thank you so much for taking the time and just sharing the story and some, I think, really actionable advice.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me. I'm honored.
No, gosh, absolutely. The last question I love to end with is for the folks that are listening, if they want to follow along with you and your story and maybe more high-tech connect, what are the best places online that people should look?
Well, I'm actually really active on Facebook, and I'm happy to connect with a lot of people. So Facebook is the best place. My name is Rene Siegel. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I'm going to be posting more articles. All of my Inc.com articles that I've already written with all kinds of tips and advice are posted there on my LinkedIn profile. And then, of course, email. I'm always happy to have people reach out to me directly. And my email is Rene, RENE, @htconnect.com.
Perfect. And we'll list all of this on the show notes for the episode as well as our website. And we'll also put a link over to High Tech Connect so people can see the organization and get to know what you guys are all about.
Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Now, over to you. Any thoughts or questions you'd like to share? Seriously, do you have any questions you'd like to ask me or the guest? We'll answer them and even get the guest to help us. So send us a message, use our Facebook page and email us there, or post a comment or question on the page, or tweet us at accidentalinfo using hashtag @LivingYourJourney. You can find out more about all the guests, links to their sites and social channels, and even bonus content all at accidentalinformation.com. Now, a couple favors. Go subscribe to the show and you'll be the first to get the download before everyone else. Also, take just a couple moments and head over to the show in iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a quick review. Quick, easy, and I would love it. This totally supports us and it helps me bring in interesting guests each week and keeps the show going. Also, I love to read them and see what you guys are really thinking. Thanks for joining the conversation, and remember, Living Your Journey is available every Tuesday. Until next week.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Can we do that one over?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm cracking up.
But this is the best part. This is kind of the best part for me too, because it makes it real. I like the genuine authenticity when we get to. That's why I kept the cat part in the other guest episode, is because it shows, like, you know what, you can be a real person and you can still do great things. Like, we don't have to be polished all the time.
Okay.
At least that's kind of a little bit more about me as well. Maybe that's just because I enjoy those parts, because I think, when I see somebody like that, it helps me resonate better with them, because I know I'm not perfect. And I'm like, so you can totally be lame sometimes. It's okay. Yes. I can do lame. I'm really good at that,